Yo, welcome everyone to the Spaceless Realms Podcast. Today, I want to start it off by pulling a tarot card for the theme of our conversation. I'm also, of course, always here with Kalki, Anthony of Egypt, Sonia Morikawa, and many different forms of sentience that we can morph into as limitless beings. So, yeah, I just cut the deck. And this is the card that I'm going to pull. The Ace of Cups. The Ace of Cups. That I feel like the Ace of Cups signifies unboundless energy, new beginnings, and all that in between.
Yeah,
And
that's the
today,
most powerful cards.
yeah. So for our conversation, I wanted to dive into talking about life and death, the myriad of existence, and what we can gain from the knowledge of what a gift it is to be in this form, in this life, in this age. And is there anything else that you want to add into that to? Oh yeah, we wanted to talk about also like wormholes, reincarnation, and how all of that links together. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's dedication to Yasmin actually, because she said she was looking forward to actually seeing that. So I hope she does at some point. But if she doesn't, either way, it's that's what inspired it. So you were talking about doing that a couple episodes ago, and I was like, yes, let's do it because it all links together. I feel like those wormholes, those reincarnations, those portals, those temporal space-time distortions that allow us to hop from one reality to another. They're no different than popping into different REM dream sleeps, blinking your eyes in a dream and ending up in a different surrounding. That's a quantum leap. That's a wormhole portal. In dream realm and dreamscape, it's almost unthinkable not to be able to do that. And in this reality, it's almost unthinkable to be able to do that. But then we coexist in both those realities in a bipolar state, which is very similar to what many people would say is societal schizophrenia in that sense. And I can say that because I'm schizoaffective and bipolar type 2. But I've been diagnosed with this. That doesn't limit me. That tells me in that sense that I'm more gifted than a normal person because I have twice the emotional capacity in a sense. My spectrum is much wider. It doesn't mean that in the extremes it's not unbalanced, but we all have our disbalances of reality. I think everybody would be diagnosed with something. At the end of the day, we all have some form, like we've talked about before, of complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And to me, that links in to the different experiences we've had, because sometimes the wormholes and portals are into different dimensions and realities that are socially or centrally controlled by colonial societies that push us into wormholes of horrors. And
Yeah.
whether they be statistical horrors in what's going on daily on the planet, the state of war and famine and disease and genocide, or going into portals that are fabricated synthetically through Hollywoodized, through horror movies, or through other realities, which myself I even partake in from time to time. But I try to hack that off the internet. I don't ever go, I rarely pay to go see a movie that's not an independent movie that I want to support myself with those funds, like say the Operation Underground Railroad story that came out recently that donated all their proceeds to stop child abuse across the planet. Now that's a good way to actually go into a portal which actually benefits you, teaches you about a gruesome reality of this existence that most people all too often avoid, which is child traffic, child porn, and actually puts you into a state where you're donating in the process of educating yourself to stop that from happening. So that's like that triangulation of cause and effect, or of thought and action and reaction, rather I should say, is what gives you the primordial ability to put yourself in a situation of vulnerability and realizing how horrid the world is, but at the same time educating yourself on how to be a part of the change and being a part of the change in the process of that education, which is something that rarely we can afford in this society in this day and age. It might seem like a convoluted way to tie all those topics together, but I feel like they properly fit. And if you look at a lot of different spiritual traditions, they talk about how the center of the galaxy, which is a giant black hole or two giant orbiting black holes, depending on how they consider it, is actually at the core of the reincarnation principle. So many different Eastern philosophies, in particular, many mystical Western theologies and theosophies, actually speak about the 7 different levels of heavens as being 7 different dimensions. And the soul journeying through these dimensions at its final gate has to pass through the wormhole at the center of the galaxy, which is to say the singularity point of the black hole, before being rebirthed in a quasar in the opposite dimension, which would be like the spiritual, etheric, ancestral dimension. So that to me ties into, astrophysical are also astro metaphysical concepts, and astrobiological concepts. Astrophysics and astral physics are not that far from each other. So the spiritual and scientific reality of the cosmos, the mesocosm, the macrocosm, the microcosm, the insect world, our world, and then the world of the elders or of the ancient ones, or of the ancestors, those realms, they're all interconnected into this web of life, which is like an infinity of portals and wormholes that bridge through the different forms of our imagination, and our thoughts, our patterns, our actions reverberate in butterfly effects across the galaxies. And at the end of the day, if we were all in synchronicity and all in harmony with each other, instead of harming and causing and supporting colonialism by buying into it quite literally and metaphorically, then we would all be interconnected in a web of telepathic harmony.
Wow. That exists in dream states for sure.
It does. That's what we need to reconnect to.
For example, if you go on a psychedelic trip and say if you smoke some DMT or anything like that, once you get into that space, it's just overwhelming energy. So that shows that worlds within worlds, there is so much energy to be channeled and wielded in a way. So people think that there's a scarcity in this world, but there really is no scarcity because the universe is all encompassing and forever, forever yielding infinite rewards, you know? So how would we, that connects to the Ace of Cups, because that Ace of Cups is that same kind of energy. So how would we
The
connect?
infinite boundless energy of wisdom,
Exactly.
of magic, of water, of liquids, of medicines.
What kind of attributes would attract someone to that kind of path?
It's a complex answer, actually,
Hmm.
because it's polymorphic. Like there's so many different aspects that we could consider in the process of, what you can even interpret from the tarot card versus like the entire path that we're speaking of cosmically and like metaphysically, and the karmic path that we walk in each lifetime. There's so many different aspects of it to be considered, but I would say at the end of the day, it is the key aspect to consider is the infinity of aspects. So intersectionality would be the key word, I would say, because if you consider intersectionality and interconnectedness as being two facets spiritually and physically of the same reality, one has to do with direct action and living your life as consciously and militantly and intersectionally as possible, interdisciplinarily as possible, being a jack of all trades essentially, but then mastering them wisely, being aware of equitability versus equity, or equality versus equity, I should say, and what equity means in the real estate versus what equity means in the real life. Um, there's so many different ways in which we should consider, but at the end of the day, to me, it all boils down to interconnectedness and intersectionality, which actually ties in quantum reality to this battle we have against this nefarious religious patriarchal overlord that tries to control the entirety of existence and predict all of our fates based on if we worship him or not. Now, that to me, the revolutionary action in the case of a tyrant that demands ultimate and global worship of all sentient beings and all of them to be in submission as slaves, the ultimate act of revolution in that situation is to battle against that and reestablish quantum reality through multiple polymorphic ways of creative, artistic, musical, prose forms of depictions, poetic ones, visual to, audible to, even cooking becomes an act of revolutionary warfare against the forces in the system trying to force toxins and poisons upon us, literally.
Hmm. Hmm.
I would say also, like, if we go back to the cosmic sense of what we were talking about, as mesocosms, our chakras are actually microcosmic black holes and quasars that are functioning in an energetic pattern that are aligned or disaligned in some cases in a way to foster creativity, to foster this creativity into what is cosmically termed in astrophysics as the cosmic dragon. So the dragon is the creative energy that emanates from the top of our crown chakra, from Sahasrara into Upasuryaka, into Bahaisana, like into chakras that go beyond the limbic system we've been taught, which has to do with the so-called main spinal chakras, which aren't even all numerated because there's or numbered because enumerated and numbered. Because essentially there's 9 main nerve bundles in the spine, but there's only 7 chakras that are defined. And then they don't talk about feet chakras, hand chakras. All of those are cosmic terms for sentient balls of energy that are, in certain forms more concentrated. Usually they trace a difference between chakras, marmas, and nadis. And in those cases, what's very interesting is that we don't realize that we've been lied to in the majority of the cases of what we've been taught, even spiritually, as being advanced, to the point where we're literally just like wandering ghosts with 7 imperfect chakras, most of which we're taught don't even correspond with a direct sense. We only have 5 senses, but 7 chakras. Does that make sense? We should have at least 7 senses, one for each chakra that corresponds.
Yeah.
And numerologically, there's an equivalence there.
Mm-hmm.
And energetically, there's an equivalence there. Each of the chakras, like say Reiki people would know what I mean. The hand chakras have a very unique gift. Feet chakra, same thing. So the knee chakra is different energy. Elbow chakra is different energies, but nobody ever talks about those as being chakras. In the Indian system, they would explain that in 2 seconds. In India, they would laugh and say, of course, there's more than 7 chakras, but Western people, they just essentialize that. So we are essentially floating, but walking and dreaming cosmic vessels that are made up of bundles of minor and major energy centers that are collapsing black holes, turning into quasars, whirling around at subatomic lightning speeds. And that in itself, that we're this tapestry of stardust and black holes and quasars, should be enough to inspire awe in us, but also to make us realize how these supernatural powers and these awarenesses, these gifts that are given to us, are endowed to us for us to actually have supernatural yields in terms of what our effect is upon the planet, butterfly effects.
Wow, that's very well said. And yeah, I feel the more that you step into your existence and the more that you step into your power, you're activating your chakras. And I feel since the world is stuck in their root chakra, their Muladhara chakra, they like as you slowly climb the ladder, you're climbing up your spine and climbing the degrees of yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
when you unlock different parts of your chakras, you're yeah, basically I don't know. That's an understatement.
Not necessarily. But I get what you mean because it seems like in this life, especially in colonial languages, the way we express ourselves is always an understatement. The words can never properly translate the reality of the sacredness and the mystical aspects that we try to define with these colonial words. It's
Yeah.
very strange. It's a funny paradox to exist in.
Hmm.
That's why I actually am like very glad to be able at least to comprehend some bits and pieces and be able to speak in glossolalia senses, sometimes in ancient tongues, because that to me is one of the greatest gifts. To be able to restructure, redefine reality, like we explained in the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis episode, that how language structures reality. That's another way in which we can create wormholes with portals and wormholes in positive and negative senses with our words and neutral senses as well, but usually it's a whole spectrum. Each
Hmm.
word carries its particular phonetic, phonemic, semantic, and emphatic or empathetic or apathetic energy to it.
Hmm. Hmm. So what's up? What should we talk about now?
I was thinking about Yasmin actually, and I was like, I hope she watches this episode tonight.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna send it to her, and she's gonna watch it for sure. If I tell her to, if I'm like, yo, I dedicate this to you, she'll watch it for sure. I just feel like, you know, I've been having the privilege of actually being able to do everything that I love and take a vacation right now, and this is like work, but at the same time, it's not. It's a passion. So
Yeah.
I feel like
Stunning.
I don't have the right sometimes to like, this is the reason why I barely promoted myself in my life. And I don't even promote the music that I make, but other people share it anyways, because otherwise I don't know who would listen to it, because I'm the kind of guy, I'm the opposite of the guy trying to push the mixtape or the enlightenment for 1999. I don't know how to do that with people.
Hmm. Yeah, instead of like working, I call it funning.
Yeah.
If like yeah, if the work is not fun, then you might as well switch it up.
Yeah. No, exactly. I agree. And there's always been times, I think we've all been in situations where we've done stuff that we didn't want to do to survive, to get like, in certain situations, like the 9 to 5 society structure is made that way.
Hmm.
But that being said, I think that cosmically, as soon as we awaken to half of our lives being unlimited, then we focus on the half that's unlimited to bring that unlimited, boundless energy of the dream realm into the reality that we're enslaved and oppressed in, at least to a certain extent. But then I realize we have a lot of privilege compared to a lot of people, regardless.
Yeah, we do. Hmm. Okay. Honest, I'll pull one more tarot card and I'll see what kind of what we can pull from that. Okay. This card right here. The Six of Wands. The Six of
Ooh,
Wands. It looks like a victory card, like a celebration, standing up, you
that's
know?
beautiful.
Yeah.
I can tell you one thing: when you have 6 wands, numerologically, six has been a very demonized number. But
Yeah. Yeah.
six actually represents paganism. It represents the evolution of archangelic nature and being grounded in the planet, but giving service back to the earth from within the planet. So demons in ancient days with an A and an E were considered guardian angels. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be an upgrade, and it was supposed to be a necessary step to get to pagan, awareness, to be able to transcend to archangelic after that to seven. So
Yes.
six is very important, and one's charged with magic. It's the instrument you need. The cups is like the energy that flows inside of you that you need to create the magic inside of you, which is represented through, you need the one to activate the pentacle. The pentacle itself is what traces the ritual, so you need those three different aspects to activate the magic within you. And then the swords are like the warrior aspect. It's like literally like you need that physical aspect as well too. You need to be a warrior and a wizard, warrior and a wizardess. You need to be a shaman and a shamanist. You need to be a great either whether it be a swordsman or an archer or something. You could even be a barefoot, empty-handed warrior. That's like one of the crews that we're a part of. But at the end of the day, if you master all trades, like we were talking about earlier, you have all these quantum aspects that are emanating out of you. Then you literally are mapping your reality polydimensionally, and your energy will be so highly active and so highly vibrationally productive that your force field, your toroidal force field, replenished by the correct alignment of your chakra system, which can also be trained through martial arts, through Venusian arts, yoga, through all these different practices that you can, you don't need to master any of them extensively, but at the end of the day, the more some people say strings you have to your bow, but also the more arrows you have to your bow, the more you are efficient in whatever you're doing with that, in marksmanship, in hunting, maybe supernatural demons or whatever the case is that we might be doing.
Yeah.
So I think I'll leave it at that, because I feel like I'm slightly veering off topic now. But it's been an absolute pleasure, and just please keep in mind to everyone that this is a first take, freestyle session that we do, and we try to put thought into it as spontaneously as possible to keep it fresh and raw.
Yeah, bro. That's what's up. Yeah. Authenticity is so important, not just like not scripting things and just, yeah, just following your intuition and flowing with that.
Exactly. It actually triggers certain parts of the brain that are completely different. They said people who learn how to freestyle, people who know how to spontaneously generate thought, actually make that happen. Oh, my apologies. I'm gonna let that be because Yasmin's
All
calling right now. So that's
right,
crazy.
bro. Peace out.
Okay,
Peace.
peace, brethren.
Enjoy.